Good morning, Friday the 6th of December. Beautiful morning up on the downs this morning. Sun is shining after quite a miserable day yesterday, and some perhaps calm before the storm with some poor weather coming in over the weekend. Today we are going to do a quick course update, what we've been up to this week on the course. We'll also go over the project, so how the 12th tee is coming along, the 17th tee, and then I'm also going to talk turf pests because we've used some of the rain this week to start addressing some of the leather jackets and worms out on the golf course. So they'll be the main topics this week. If you want to skip straight to those, then look down in the description or just click through to the chapters underneath. So this week we hosted PGA Dorset in Wiltshire, so a lot of the local pros came up on Monday, so it's good to get a set up for them and members early in the week. So nice cut, roll, bunkers raked up, aprons, fresh holes as well. So it's good to get a course set up early, nice in the week for members and those. So I hope that was enjoyed by all. This week, cutting frequencies of greens, we're down to sort of twice a week now, early part of the week, late part of the week, and then rolling in between to keep the performance up. Love to try and get a Saturday morning rollout as well for you weekend golfers. Probably it won't be achievable this week with the 2T start and the turkey trot. Hope that goes ahead. I sort of hope the weather isn't bad, but I hope it is bad for some of the things we've done to set it up for that. That'll make sense later. With the rain for worms and leather jackets. But elsewhere we've also put our winter tee markers out, so blue tees are now out. Yellow tees can't stay in the yellow areas all year round, they just get too heavily worn, and the tees around them get heavily worn as well, so it's nice to sort of spread the wear and tear about in that way. We do leave the whites out. They are still in a measured course at the moment, so I'm happy for cards still to be handed in on the white tees. I'll just go a little bit further into that. So you can see that's where the white plate is. When I got involved in the golf club, it would have been back in this area, so it had only been a pace or two off the back of the tee. So what we decided to do when we were getting remeasured was go to what I call the Aussie system, because the Aussies have been doing this for years, where we can go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 forwards, and we can also go 1, 2, 3 or 4 backwards. As a rule, we can go 6. Well, I try and keep it to 6 forward, 6 backwards, so that you can go a maximum of 10, but I try to keep it at 6, so that if all the tees are forward, we're still not going to be 100 yards out of the measure course, or if we're 6 yards backwards on every tee for club champs, things like that, then we're not exceeding the limits of what the measured course are. So that's fantastic. That's allowed us to keep the whites out for a much longer within a measured course, because when they are right at the back of the tees, I think people in the previously that was done to boast length on the scorecard. But if you go 7 yards forward on every tee, having 6 yards, tees are traditionally long and thin, and then so to only be able to go 6 yards forward is not enough over winter, and we play golf all year round. So we now have the measure point in what we call the middle of the tee, so we can go 6 to 10 yards back or forwards. So that gives us a lot more measured room. So as I said, we can keep those whites out for longer, measured course for longer, and we can keep the cards coming in. That's why we've been working on the tees the last couple of years. So par threes we've set up so that they're big enough to host golf all winter. The next phase was to where can we extend some winter tees so that we can keep them in measured course all year round. So that's why we've done 12. That's why we've got plans to do the 10th. You look at how small that 10th tee is. We can't host golf off that all year round. 11 is another issue as well, but we'll have to come to that when we do what we're calling our strategic plan, for a longer term plan for that. But that's why we've got that plan for 10, so we can make a bigger tee, change the area around a little bit, still keep that putting green, but host a bigger tee, so we can try to have the whites in play all year round. One of the jobs we've been up to this week is to have a good tidy up down in the car park. We blow the leaves throughout the autumn 2 or 3 times to keep on top of the tidiness in the car park. Now all the leaves have fallen. We get those, do a good clear up. So yeah, get those all blown into the corners, get them all picked up and taken away and onto a bonfire site. We've trimmed all the verges as part of that as well, so that also gives that a tidy up and cleared all the mess out from the shoe cleaner, and given the shoe cleaner bed, non-maintenance garden bed around there, just a fresh top up of bark, so that all tidies that up and improves that first impression as you turn into the golf club. So yeah, that's a good job, well done, and yeah, it keeps that area tidy. Some of you may have seen myself and Mark work on the irrigation system this week, which may sound mad for this time of year, but from some of our meter readings and things, we're experiencing a couple of leaks on in our pipe work. So what we're trying to do to solve that is to start isolating the system, checking those isolation points work, then going back to our meter reading and seeing if if we're still getting flow through the dial. And that will help us break down and locate what leg, if you like, and what area that leak is in, so that we can then report that to a contracting irrigation company who will come out and will inject gas into that area, and then they're able to pinpoint and where that leak is, and then we can sort of dig that area up and get that fixed. So that can be in good working order going into the next season, and we're not sort of wasting water and spending more money than we should be on leaks and things like that. So yeah, if you have seen that, that's what we've been out doing. Projects update for you this week. The 12th winter extension has had its first mow. You can see the T mower at the back of the T there. We bought that as a designated mower, which will cut newly seeded tees. You can cut newly turf tees as well. It's a great mower for that purpose, where you're not using the triple mowers, which would cause the rutting of from the wheels, and yeah, that causes problems and unevens the tee. It gives it a nice roll behind with that hand mower, and it also doesn't use the hand mowers which we use for the greens, as they will come into close contact with the newly prepared soil and perhaps any stones that have made their way to the top of those. So keeps those hand mowers that we use for the greens clean. So yeah, designated hand mower is brilliant for this. It continues to compact the surface nicely and evenly as well, rather than, as I said, getting the wheels over there. So yeah, that looks great for a cut. We're pleased with that. And we wait for the spring and the warmer temperatures for that to really thick out before we can start using that. The 17th tee has been continued to work on this week as we've imported more soil to the tee. The boards have all been installed, so we know all of that teeing area is nice and level. We've got all the materials to the root zone to top up to the boards, and then scraped off with the ladder, so it's nice and clean. As you can see from the front there, we have had to build that up quite a bit to get that level. I think I've said it already, but we would really like to have that as a level tee rather than one that previously sloped downhill. But as a short par 3, we want that to be nice and level. It feels a lot bigger as we're on it and around it, but I haven't intentionally made it any bigger. Maybe we've just made a bit more use of the space that's there, or perhaps it's because you just looked at it and thought you couldn't use half of it previously because it sloped off so much in some areas. But yeah, it feels a lot bigger for leveling it off. So we'll finish the soiling off early part of next week, where we fill in the areas of the boards, and then we'll start getting some green side up, get some turf on it, and start bringing a close to that. So yeah, not as much progress as we'd quite like, but yeah, with the weather forecast, we spent a bit of time doing some pest controls I'll talk about next, and clearing that car park. So it took a little bit of time away from that this week, but continued on, and should start seeing some turf on that next week. We're going to do a feature on turf pests, as we had some ideal weather conditions for applications to help control populations of pests this week. So first we're going to talk leatherjackets. These are the grubs that you can see under the soil, under the peeled back turf there in the photo. These leather jackets are the larvae stage of crane fly. I think you'll all be relatively familiar with crane flies. This is what they look like when they're up against the wall in your house, or you'll see these flying out the grass everywhere. In late August, September is when they mature and exit the grass, and they start flying around, buzzing around everywhere for a few days before they mate and relay their eggs. There are primary and secondary issues to leather jackets. They live very close to the top of the surface, as you can see from the photo displayed there. The reason for that is their food source is the grass roots. So feeding on the grass roots, that results in poor turf quality, where the grass is trying to push its roots down to get more nutrients, etc., and that's being taken away from the grass plant because these grubs are eating these roots as their food source. A secondary issue is they are a food source for animals, particularly in winter, where food source for birds and badgers and things like that become very, very scarce with lack of berries on bushes, etc. They are going further to source food, and they will disturb turf surfaces to get to these grubs. As you can see, this is our first apron, and there's been some birds pecking at that to get to these grubs for food. There was no chemicals on the market to control these turf pests a few years ago, and there were some real horror stories where the numbers got out of control and the secondary issues were heightened and even worse, with birds pecking and badgers digging up fairways and all sorts to get to both leather jackets and chafer grubs. But luckily now there is a relatively new product back on the market, which is helping us to control these. So the timing of the application is important, as if you were to spray too early, so late September, early October, not long after they've hatched and emerged, they will still only be eggs. Eggs are non-treatable, so the chemical wouldn't have an effect. If you spray too late, quite often the chemical may not reach them if the larvae have gone too deep into the soil after a number of frosts, where they will go deeper and deeper into the ground throughout winter and through frost. And also, as they get into pupae stage, they become too large and too resilient that the chemical won't have an effect of them. So that's why the application is rather important. It also does need some rain in behind for that product to be washed in and get into. It's a soil-based product, so you need the application to be applied, and then the rain to take the product further into the root zone, into the soil, and start making contact with the larvae. So so as you can see from all of that is quite, the timing is quite important. So hopefully we've just caught it right in early December. We haven't had too much. We had a real dry period during October, late October, when may have been the really ideal time. And then some of the rain that we did have was a bit too much of a deluge, where it would almost just sort of wash the product through, rather than you just want a nice amount of rain nice amount of steady rain to take that product down and through into the profile, so it starts making contact with those larvae. We're also starting to target some of the worm castings out on the golf course during winter. Areas where we have an excess of worms, and the castings will turn areas very muddy and are not great for our mowers either, as they will knock them off cut, because the soil making contact with a bed knife or the cylinder will knock those off cut and sort of blunt those, so we don't get as good a quality of cut also. So there is an soil conditioner out on the market which will target the worms which are there's lots of different types of worms and species, and some work higher up, some work in different areas and that sort of thing. So this soil conditioner targets those worms which are causing the casting. So the soil conditioner will kill off some of the worms. It will push some further down. It will push some into other areas. So the target is to have the areas that we cut with cylinders nice and clean. So over the course of this winter, we've already hit the tees once with a full application, and it looks like we're going to have quite a bit of rain over the weekend. And so again, this soil conditioner needs to be washed in to make contact with these worms. And to have a good effect. So we went out spot treated the end of this week in preparation for the weekend's weather, and then so that's why I said at the start, hopefully we do get a bit of a deluge, so that that soil conditioner can work and have an effect. So the just to go through, greens in most of the aprons are very, very clean already. That's probably where historically there's been quite a few chemicals on the market which used to kill worms back in the day. They've all gone now. They've all disappeared, and worm castings have been increasing more and more in different areas. So it feels like the greens in most of these aprons are very, very clean of worms, and they haven't really come back there yet. But a lot of the extensions that we've done, whereby we've taken the surfaces out further, so whether we extended the aprons or we've created the green surrounds by using a cylinder mower to have tight grass around the outsides of the greens and the aprons. We're getting a lot of worm castings in there because these areas historically haven't been treated for that with chemicals, and yes, there's a high popularity of worms. So the goal is to really target the areas such as tees, apron extensions and green surrounds that we've created to get them up to a similar level to what the greens in the old main aprons are that I've talked about were sprayed. Get them really, really clean, and then start targeting some of the worse fairways. I felt that in previous years we had spread ourselves a bit thin by just applying one application across some fairways, tees, and it was starting to control some of the numbers. But to really get on top, I think you need 2 or 3 applications over the winter. So that's what we're really aiming to do. As I said, we've had a full application on tees, and now we're just I've seen some of the tees that had not too many worm casts on before being very, very clean, but some of the ones that were really, really bad are cleaner but still not quite there. So there's a good reduction, a good amount of control, but yeah, we keep hitting those until we feel they're really, really clean, and are sort of worm cast free, and then we will move on to other areas such as some of the fairways and things. Thanks for watching, listening, and we look forward to another update at the end of next week.